What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Bridging the Gap on the Jersey First TV network. As you guys are aware of, I'm AJ Malillo.
And I'm Stephen Rombolo.
And you might notice we don't have a guest this week because we thought it would be interesting if we interviewed each other, let you guys get to know us a little bit more. And I think that we're going to sort of be redoing the show a little bit in the next coming weeks, and you'll notice that we're gonna change the focus and direction of the show slightly. So it's gonna be moved off an interview, and it's gonna be more based upon Stephen and I and us as individuals and our opinions on things, but also how we deliver information. So hopefully you'll enjoy that change. I think you will. But so you get to know the hosts a little bit more, Bridging the Gap. That's why we decided to do this. So I think that this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm super excited for it.
I'm very excited because AJ and I, if you don't already know, have had quite the lengthy partnership doing interviews. And we've always interviewed other people. And I think it'll be very, very interesting and fun for us to kind of sit in the other seat, so to say, with each other. Because I know how AJ interviews other people. And I think it's going to be one of those situations where you think you're ready, and you're probably not.
Right. And I mean, to be completely frank, I don't think either of us know what kind of questions the other one's going to ask.
No.
Actually, I know for a fact that neither of us know that. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. But without any further ado, I'm going to start by asking Stephen a couple questions, and then we'll switch roles. We'll get like 2 interviews for the price of 1 right here. So
it's a bargain deal.
Yeah, I like to think so. That's why I think. So anyway, let's get into it. I think that the most logical place to start, Stephen, is the beginning.
Yes.
And so with that, my first question is going to be, where do you come from? If I say, Stephen Rombolo, what are your roots? Right? Where did you get your start?
That's the easiest question, probably.
I think
I
so.
would hope of the entire interview. I rep hard where I'm from. I am a hometown boy, Ortley Beach, New Jersey. We live on a barrier island. It's a different kind of community. And it's small town. It's a local feel. And, my street, my block, street end to street end, full-time residents. I think there's maybe 6 families that live on my street. So I grew up in a very tight-knit community. My family extends beyond the 4 walls of my house, and it goes from that street end to street end. And it's such a unique way to live, because it's a real vibrant sense of community in a big way. So I would say my roots are very deeply planted in Ortley Beach. And I would also say it's a product of my father, who was born and raised a house separated from the house that he now owns.
Right.
So this isn't just, I'm not the first. This is a generational lineage in this place. And I acknowledge that, and I think it's really special to be a part of something that's rooted in a community, because my father plays such a big role in the community. So my roots are as much in Ortley Beach as they are, the branching off of what my father's built in Ortley Beach.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is, if I were to be asked about Stephen, I'd say one of the big things is that you care about community. You care about the people around you. And your whole family's like that. Very much the epitome of a family that if you are coming to their home, you're not a stranger, you're not just somebody off the street. You are part of the family, 100%, whether you have the same last name or not. So I know that community is something that you value so deeply, and obviously, like you said, it comes from your dad. So let's talk a little bit about that and the relationship there and how that has shaped you into who you are.
So I think this is a question that every 20-something-year-old man fears, is to talk about their relationship with their father. And that's not to say that it's a bad relationship at all. That's not what I'm saying. But it's a hard philosophical thing to digest, because it's a powerful relationship. especially since I'm the firstborn. I'm a big brother to a little sister, so there's a, a dynamic there that can't be ignored. Um, but my father is quite literally like the biggest inspiration. He is the guy. He is everything that I want to be and more. Is what I would say my father is. He's, like I said, grew up a house away from the house that he was born and raised in. So he's seen Ortley Beach and the people come and go and the businesses come and go. And he's been instrumental in that. In his role, he's a volunteer fireman. He works at the Department of Public Works, which is, I mean, quite literally public works. Like that's a little bit on the nose if you know my father. He's like the pseudo mayor.
Yeah, might as well be the mayor
of
honestly.
Town. You can't turn a corner and not see somebody that he knows. And I think that he's equally as ambitious as I would describe myself in a different way. And when you have two people who operate at such a high level and are so driven, it's not always a lesson that's verbally passed, which is something that I've really learned to appreciate. Because I know you hear a lot of people in interviews like this where they're like, tell me about your dad. And I'll be like, oh, my father always used to say this. My father always used to say that. I have the opportunity to say something that I think is more prolific, which isn't my father never said, my father did. And it's always about what you do and not what you say. Your actions speak louder than your words. And so my father is a man of very few words, but his actions, the loudest thing in the world to me. I see everything he does. I see the passion. I see the commitment, the drive, the hard work. This is a man, he's about to be 52 years old, and he's still getting on his hands and knees, sweating on a hot summer day, digging up pavement at work, and he's the boss.
Right.
It doesn't get higher than him. That speaks more volume to me about how to provide, how to work, how to earn the respect of others. Just kind of the concept of putting your nose to the grindstone and getting things done than any one-liner or lesson that he could have ever said to me. And that's not just to talk about his work. That's the way that he treats me and my sister, the way that he treats my mother. The love that they have is incredible. They've been married for over 24 years at this point, I believe. 25 maybe. And you look at them and he treats her with such kindness and devotion that you would think that they just fell in love yesterday. And all of those things, although they're not verbally spoken, when you grow up in a house like that with so much love and support and hard work, that's the lesson. And that truly is the reason that I am the way that I am.
Yeah, I could not agree more with anything you said. And it's so interesting doing an interview like this for us too, because I know all of this, right? So I can attest to it personally. Like the amount of times that I've seen your dad, we will be out, or hanging out outside 2:00 in the morning, and he's got to go to work, and then doesn't get back until like 8:00 in the morning. We were at a 4th of July barbecue which he hosted, and he at like 2:30 in the morning was like, "All right, guys, got to go to work." After hosting a barbecue all day, it's not like he's not doing anything, right? So, absolutely, I could see that. But like you said, the most I think remarkable thing is you absolutely see just the passion that he has for not only what he does, but his family, his wife. And speaking of your mother, obviously, that is another person who there's so much of her in you. And so talk a little bit about your mom too, and the role that she played, because I see it full hand, the combination of your mother and father that you are. So.
I mean, everybody says it, right? Like their mom's the best mom.
Right.
Right? Except like when I say it, it's a fact.
No, I mean, She is probably like 1A and 1B with my mom.
right?
Right? Yeah.
What to say about my mother other than that she's like the guiding star. You know, when it's dark and you're lost and you don't know where to go, you look up and there's mom. Deb's a little tough on the nose.
She's tough as nails.
She's tough. And that's not to say that there's tough love.
Yeah.
I think that's the best lesson that I learned from my mother, is that there is a time and a place for tough love. And the way that she cares for me and my sister, she's not afraid. She does not mince her words. If we are straying off course, if we're, getting distracted in whatever it may be, because she wants nothing more than to see her children, as any mother does, achieve the most that they can and be fulfilled and be happy in what they want to do. That's the other thing I appreciate tremendously about my parents is I grew up in a house where I was never told, no, you can't do that. Whatever I said, like I want to do X, there was never a question. It's full support. And I understand the dynamic from a parent to a child that might be hard to grapple with. There is an age difference. You might not necessarily understand why your kid wants to do something. And Deb's not afraid to poke questions at that. But I appreciate that because it means that she cares and she wants to learn. And so I think the lesson and the thing that I carry with from my mother is it's okay to be tough on people that you love. And if you're not, then what are you there for? Everybody needs somebody to keep them on track. Everybody needs somebody to kind of, metaphorically slap them in the back of the head and say, hold on, this isn't you, what are you doing? And my mother's been an example of that for me my entire life.
Yeah, no, and Stephen is not afraid to tell you what he thinks. And you absolutely get that from your mom. And so that's one thing in the future episodes that people should notice about Stephen. Is that he's not going to mince his words and he's not going to lie about what he's thinking, and know that he gets that from his mom.
That's
and that's awesome. It's an awesome thing, and a lot of people are too scared of to have that quality. But there's two more relationships that I want to touch on directly and then move on. So one thing you always said is that the first job you ever had was to be a big brother.
Yes.
So let's talk about the person that gave you that job.
Yeah.
Well, we just talked about your parents, but the person who fulfilled that role,
my employer,
your employer in a way,
yeah.
is your little sister.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Lauren a little bit and the relationship there, because I think that the relationship between your parents it's vital. The relationship that a sibling has with their sibling, if you do it right, it's the best friend that you never had to work for, really. Not that you didn't have to work for it, because you do have to work on the relationship, but that you were given and you didn't have to find.
So I was a tough big brother growing up. I very much was I'm not touching you, bam, I'm touching you, because she's a little sister. What does she do other than poke and prod and get on your nerves? And I'll admit, the best thing about having a little sister is that you kind of grow up together, obviously, but in a different way. I had to learn and realize the maturity that comes with, sort of being responsible for somebody else at a young age, because Lauren and I did everything together. And I think that trickles back to the community aspect of it, because there wasn't many kids for us to hang out with where we're from. Like I said, there's 6 families on my block. Our school bus chartered for a whole island of kids, 4 townships, had maybe 15 kids on it. And until we got our licenses, our parents were not driving from our house over a bridge to drop us off, to drive back over a bridge to go home, to drive back over a bridge to pick us up, to drive back over a bridge to go home. So it was you got your sister.
Right.
And I was never content with the relationship just being, you got your sister. I want the relationship, and I'm proud of the relationship to be, this is like this isn't just my sister, this is my friend. She was always with me, whatever we did. When I got my license, I was always picking her up, dropping her off. She was tagging along with me and my friends. And we just spent so much time together. Quality time. Which I would attribute to being in a house that is, free and very loving. That it just kind of clicked at some point where it was like, I got you, you got me. We got to hold it together for them, mom and dad, and everything that they want for us. It's a hard relationship to put into words. But I don't think that I'll say this. There's no person on this planet that I love or could love more than Lauren. Like, quite literally, the light of my life. I want nothing but the best for her, and would do anything for her. And it hurts me to see siblings who don't have that kind of relationship, and I know a lot of them.
Yeah.
People who can't stand their little brother, their older brother, whatever the drama may be. And I attribute the success and the trajectory of mine and Lauren's relationship to that fundamental understanding of family and community, and that the sky's the limit when you are truly able to just be with another person, a stranger, a friend, a family member, and be nothing but loving and supportive of no matter what it is they're doing. We have our differences, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, I know that when it comes down to it, she's got me, I got her, no matter what the circumstances are.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have one of the strongest sibling relationships I know, and we've been friends for years now, and honestly, it's like you and her are best friends. It's not, oh, Steve's little sister's tagging along. And it was never, oh, Steven's little sister's tagging along. It's Lauren is just as much in the friend group as you are, as anybody else is. And it just goes back to how strong your relationship is, and it bleeds into all of our relationships too. Because I mean, I'm the little brother, right? I don't have a younger sister, but to me, Lauren is a little sister because that's how close of a relationship that you guys have.
And I would say again that's what I want in my life with any relationship I have, is I want every person that I meet, that I have a connection with, to feel like they are family.
Right.
In the realest sense. Like, it's not, oh, my little sister's coming. It's, oh, this is Lauren.
Right.
Like, she's my little sister. She's your little sister too.
Right.
So I'm happy that that's how you see that relationship.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really, and so that the people at home really understand that this is not a joke. Like, we're with each other every possible minute we can be. Like it's not a game. But the last relationship that I wanted to hit on, especially with your family, is another person that I know was very, very, very special in your life, and that's your grandmother. So talk a little bit about what she taught you growing up and the impact she made.
A lot of bad words.
Well, fair enough.
I mean, look, there's no way around it. She was and is and will be, like, the reason for a lot of the drive and ambition and passion that I have in my life. She was very, very eclectic woman. She loved her cigarettes and her gambling and she was big into Egyptian culture, which how an Italian woman from North Jersey gets into that, beyond me. She loved horror. My grandfather was the absolute light of her life, and I know that when he passed young, a lot of things changed for her, and I think that she saw a lot of him in me. I was her first grandson, so there's a big connection there, and the love that she had for him just kind of transitioned into me. So, growing up, it was always she's coming over, babysitting us. We're doing these I don't even know if they sell them anymore. They're like these dinosaur excavation kits.
Right.
Because she wanted me to learn about dinosaurs. Like, what's cooler to a little kid, right, than like a T-Rex?
Right.
And then grandma comes over, and first of all, grandma's wearing jewelry to the nines. She's got a tattoo. She got a tattoo when she was in her 70s. Like a total just awesome woman. And she's digging in this dirt with you and showing you, like, history in real life. We were taking one of the best experiences of my life. She took me to the Museum of Natural History in New York City, and it was just us. And we walked around, and she was just so passionate about sharing, like, the world with me. We always wanted to travel together. We always said that one thing we would do is go on a safari, because she was a lover of big cats, which is like another like weird grandma thing. I don't know. She was always wore leopard print everything, and she just like, eclectic is the word. Like, had this very specific taste and was passionate about these very specific things, and was not afraid to tell anybody about it, and was not afraid to sit there and talk to you about it. And even if you were bored, she's still going to talk to you about it, because something's going to stick, and she's going to get that passion that she has through you.
Right.
And so even though I might not be like digging out dinosaur bones or playing with robots anymore, that is what I carry with me every day, is a relentless passion and sharing it with people that are important to you, because that's all she wanted. And she loved to have fun. That was the other great thing about grandma. It's like, whenever grandma came over, it was going to be a party.
Right.
And this might be like a weird thing to say, but some of my favorite moments with her were when she would go out and sit on the deck and smoke a cigarette. Nobody else wanted to be with her because, obviously, I mean, smoking's a bad habit. It's gross. You smell nasty afterwards. I loved her so much. Like, I didn't even care. It was about spending the time with her, because it was time for me and grandma, and nobody else is there, and we could talk about whatever we want to talk about. And those moments just really, especially at such a young age, form such a passion in you. And I think it's the reason why, and I know you can attest to this, I have some very strange things that I'm passionate about. Like, we'll punch it into the ground to let you know that I am passionate about it. And I get that from her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. That's the woman. She's the one.
Yeah, grandma was always so important, and it makes sense now. You understand that relationship, why you are so passionate about the things that you are. And the one thing that you can learn is that even when something might not be necessarily interesting to you, if the person that is expressing that has a passion for it, it instantly becomes 10 times more interesting.
Yep.
So speaking of things that you're passionate about, I think that one big thing that you would be remiss not to talk about is a passion that you found actually probably about the beginning of our friendship, right at that time, and that's a passion for bodybuilding and working out and going to the gym. So I personally have been a front row passenger on your journey in just bodily transformation into becoming the person physically that you want to be. and that plays also a large role into you mentally. And I can see it firsthand. I know when you have to go to the gym. I know when it's like, oh, Steven's stressed out about something. He needs to go to the gym for 3 hours and get over it, right? So, talk about that, because again, it would not be a complete interview without mentioning that.
That's fair. It always feels weird to talk about it because there's like a stigma. It's like, oh, the meathead, the guy who lifts weights. But that's not it at all. I'm not a very spiritual guy. I'll be the first to tell you. I'm not a religious man, and I'm certainly not God-fearing. But I think that everybody needs an outlet for some kind of deeper self understanding and exploration, right? And for me, when I step into that space in the gym, it's an opportunity to almost meditate. You have to sit and you have to get in the zone. And the art of bodybuilding, which is completely different than like somebody who just kind of goes and walks the treadmill and does a bicep curl here and there. Bodybuilding is like I'm not gonna say my life's passion, but it's pretty damn close, because there's a lot of focus, there's a lot of intent. It's meticulous. It's a 24/7 job. You're watching what you're eating, what you're drinking, like your digestion, everything all the time. And to train yourself to be aware and track changes in your body, your diet, whatever it is, adapt to reach a goal that you want, and do it with no assistance, is such a translational skill set. And couple that with the activities in the gym, right? So you walk in, you got to get in the zone. Tonight I did a chest workout tonight. So I'm sitting I'm in the parking lot, and I'm thinking chest, right? I need like that mind-muscle connection. I need to push on my chest. I need to feel my chest stretch and squeeze and break and do all these things. And then you step in and you got a chest press, and you're laying down, and you have 200 pounds of raw weight dangling over your neck. It requires a little bit of focus, I would say.
Yeah, a little bit of just being a nut job too.
That too. To make sure that your body is doing the right thing to get that weight down and back up, and have it not crush you in the neck and kill you or whatever it is, right? So you have to be so focused and locked in the moment, no distractions, not worried about anything else. The translation there, I think, for you it's obvious, is whatever it may be personally or professionally, the goal that I'm trying to achieve, I have to treat it like it's 200 pounds dangling over my neck. Focused intent, this is what it is, this is how we're doing it. And I think it's powerful too to be able to change your body, like to kind of have a physical form, and this is the spiritual part of it. Have a physical form and say, I want broader shoulders. So for the next 4 weeks, I'm going to do 100 lateral raises every day. You know what I mean? And it hurts, and you're sore, and you sweat, and you get gross, and it's not glamorous at all. No matter what the internet makes it look like, it is not glamorous.
If it's glamorous, you're doing something wrong.
Correct. But after those 4 weeks, you got broader shoulders, and somebody walks past you and say, hey man, you're looking wide. Not only is that a great ego boost, which, don't get me wrong, I love it.
Don't we all?
But it's a confirmation that you had a goal, you did the work, and you accomplished it, and people notice it. And nobody wants to admit it, but it feels good when your hard work gets noticed.
That's why you do it.
It's like the best thing in the world. But nobody will ever say that. Yeah. And everybody will be like, I just put my head down and do it for me, man. Sure you do.
Right. No,
everybody wants the congratulations. Everybody wants, the like on the picture, the card in the mail, whatever it may be. And when it's your physical body and it's the thing that you walk around with, and the first thing that people see it's powerful. You feel like you can do anything. Because, and again, AJ saw it from the start. I went from this like love handles over the jeans, like tubby kid, and now I'm gonna do a bodybuilding show in 3 months and stand on stage with dudes who look like chiseled Greek statues,
Right.
And the thing that I always tell people about it is nobody eats the food for you, nobody lifts the weights for you, nobody, gets the sleep for you, drinks the water for you. It has to come from within. There has to be a reason, there has to be a focus, and there has to be a commitment. And for me, I apply that to bodybuilding, I apply it to school, I apply it to jobs, friendships, whatever it is. But to have that core and that base of understanding this is what it takes to get done. It's not easy, it's not glamorous, but the result is always worth it, pushes me every single day. And then you couple that with the experiences in my life, the relationships that we touched on, and this is what you get.
Yeah, it's a remarkable thing to see somebody find their, I won't say their calling, but their passion. The thing that makes you want to get out of bed and keep the day going, right? So it's like a pleasure to see somebody else find that, let alone find that for yourself.
Yeah.
So I mean, like we said, I've seen it from the beginning, and it's a pretty remarkable thing, and it's a remarkable progress. And I think that it's fair to say and make sure that everybody is fully aware that it's done naturally.
Yes.
There was no real help. When you say you had to do it yourself, you did it yourself.
Yes.
No supplemental help or anything like that.
And like not even so much as a coach.
Right.
Like I went to YouTube University for this thing,
Right.
and it's not easy to teach yourself, how to feel, your pectoral muscle. Like, and I'm proud of this. And this might seem like a joke, but when I first started, I was like 16, 17. I just started driving. I used to sit in the mirror, no joke, and go like this and try and think about, like, how do you move this? How do you go? It starts at the very, 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 like, the base is understanding your body, right? How it works, because it takes a lot of this to be able to do that.
Right.
Right? And you don't get to hear without this.
Right.
The same way I would say you don't get to, I know we both want to be lawyers, right? You don't get to the courtroom without understanding, how to write a sentence.
Right.
At the end of the day, like that's what it is. And it requires a full-blown commitment from that first step, whatever it may be, however small or big it is, to realize the end goal. And to understand that I could sit here all day when I'm 15 years old and do this and do this. I'm not going to be able to do that for months, years, however long it is.
Sure.
But it's the relentless pursuit and the poking and the understanding and the concentrating that gets you to that place.
Yeah.
Whether it be bodybuilding or reading legal books and books about philosophy to understand the structure of a legal argument, and then to be a lawyer, like,
yeah,
it's a web. And like the same way you look at a spider web and you're just kind of like, every one of them's unique and it's amazing and it took so much time. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and
it's intricate.
Like a spider web too, there's something that like you don't know why you're even doing it half the time. You just know you have to.
Yeah.
In a way.
And the other thing too about a spider web that I think is remarkable, and I could say the same for you, is, and this is something that I'm learning now at this stage in my life, you can spend all this time, right? And you can start here and you can build this web, and it's intricate and it's got all these little silk lines in it, And from a distance, it's beautiful. And up close, it's even more beautiful when you really understand why the person did it. All it takes for a spider web is a heavy gust of wind, and it's gone.
Right.
But the spider wakes up the next day and starts again no matter what.
Right.
They don't know why, but they know that they need this thing. And they're willing to do whatever it takes. No matter how many times the web gets blown, you're going to start building again. And I think that you and I both possess that. I love the word relentless. Relentless commitment to never stop building, whatever it may be. Wherever the foundation lies, it could be rock bottom, it could be 10 stories up. We're not really ever happy because we understand that there's no limit to how big your web can be.
And there's no point in which the web can't be blown away.
Exactly.
So you got to hope that at least you get the foundation pretty strong so you can rebuild it. Right, absolutely. So I have one more big question, and then I got a couple quick rapid fire questions. So my one more big question is, we talked about your outlet, I'll say, your physical passion. But like you said, oftentimes going to the gym is conflated with being a meathead, and I would say that you're anything but that, right? You are one of the most intellectually curious and sound people I've ever met. So let's talk about the curation of that. I mean, I know when you first went to school, you wanted to be a surgeon, and now you want to be a lawyer. Those are two things that anybody would be happy with,
Yeah.
And they're both very intellectually difficult and rigorous. So let's talk about that side of you, because that is just as important.
I'll preface it with this. I would fully be on the surgeon route if I didn't have to take chemistry. Chemistry is so hard, and I'm not a numbers guy. I could do it, but you start throwing in letters, and it doesn't work for me.
I figured that out long before you did.
Yeah, it took me a little bit to get there. School was always important growing up. My parents never went. My dad. So this is another thing I should have mentioned about my father. Never graduated high school, which I'm going to say this, and it doesn't sound like the conventional thing to say. I take so much pride in that
because of what he did, despite it.
Oh my God, yeah. And the fact that a guy who didn't graduate high school, raised a kid who now has, at the age of 23, 2 degrees, and is on track to go to law school, be a lawyer, right? That's incredible. I'm so proud of him for that, even though they're my accomplishments. Well,
they're just as much his.
Exactly, right? They're just as much his. So school was always important, and I think it stems from that. My parents never really, I'm not going to say had the opportunity, because they did, but the way that they were raised and the generation that they were in was you graduate, you go to work.
Yeah.
My mother worked for 30 years. She retired at the age of 52. Worked for 30 years.
And then got another job.
Yeah, and then immediately she was off for a month and then got another job. If that tells you anything about my parents. So school was important because I think it was something that they never had the opportunity to, and they worked hard to give my sister and I a life where we could have access to these things, because I think they fostered the same way my grandmother saw it and fostered that curiosity. Couple that with the passion for community and family and being an open door, and it kind of just makes sense, to be a lawyer, to be a community advocate, to be somebody that stands up in a community that you can look up to, that fights for the right thing, that does not mince their words, and is just relentless in their pursuit of good things for good people. And I will also say bad things for bad people.
Sure.
Because that's just as important. So I wake up, and the thing that keeps me going every day on this path is I know that there is a better way to live. There's a better way to interact within a community. And I know, like, we could literally sit here for hours and talk about this, but I've had so many jobs and been involved in so many things. My father is a fireman. He is a handyman. He does side jobs, and so my entire life was dealing, with this kind of cross section of businesses, public entities, government, and seeing it all kind of meet in the middle and just like mash together. And I look at my dad and I'm like, he's successful in all of these things, and he's not a jumbled mess. So why does it have to be a jumbled mess for everybody else? Why can't we foster this kind of cooperation in the community between, your businessman, your government, and your public entities that aren't non-governmental, right? Whatever they may be. Why does it always have to be a fight between these two things?
Right.
And on top of that, all of the legal advocacy work that goes into a community. I've now, for a year now, been involved with CASA, which deals with children in foster care. I didn't realize how many children in the town that I grew up in were removed from their homes by the state and in the foster care system. When you really sit and you think about that, considering the life that I had, I see it as a tremendous privilege to say I came from a home with two parents and a little sister, and my parents work hard, and I got to finish school and I got to go to school again. It's incumbent upon me, because of the relationships I have, the people that I grew up with, my father, my mother, my grandmother, to not let that go to waste. And I see my skill set being set and kind of perfectly apt to be an advocate for people. Whatever it is, I want to be the guy that makes your life better. Whether you're a kid who's removed from the house, whether you're a business owner who's dealing with the zoning board, whether you're the victim of a crime and I'm the prosecutor who's trying to get justice issued.
Right.
Giving myself and my talents back to a community, I think is the thing that keeps me going. It's what I wake up and it makes me tick, and I think about it every second of every day. How can I leave this place and these people better than when I got here? Because look at what they did to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It is the concept of, yes, I'm privileged. I am. I know I am.
Yeah.
You are. You are. But it's not because we did anything. That's why we're privileged, So what do you do with the privilege that you possess? Because pretending like you don't have it is wrong.
It gets you nowhere.
Feeling guilty that you have it also is wrong. The right answer is, well, I'm going to do the most and possible good that I can possibly think of with this privilege that I didn't earn, so that maybe other people can reap some benefits and get some privilege too.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, the proper response is not turn away from it. It's not feel bad about it. It is, well, I'm just going to try and do the best I can. Because, well, what else is there to do?
Absolutely.
And I think that what you just described is a shining example of how somebody can do that.
I think so.
Yeah. So, I have a couple of rapid fire questions, and then we'll switch this up. Okay. Just the first thing that comes to your mind. What is the thing that you're most proud of?
My friends.
What is the best job you ever had?
Being an ice cream man.
I love it. I'm sorry. I love ice cream. I love being an ice cream man too. What is the most important lesson that you ever learned?
Keep showing up.
What was your favorite class in school?
World Affairs.
Taught by great guy.
Dennis Wiedenbush.
One of your favorite teachers.
Yeah.
And last but not least is, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
You have to give me a minute on this one.
Take your time. This is a tough question.
Yeah. I want to give you the Matthew McConaughey answer.
Right.
And say, well, I don't know. Ask me in 10 years.
Right.
We'll see where I am. No. So I'll say this. I think 90% of success is having a plan. That 10% is the execution.
Right.
Right? So it's like driving. You can get in a car. If you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there.
Sure.
Right? So you could do the 10%. You could drive. But if you don't know where you're going, you are never going to arrive at a destination. So I think about this all the time. Where do I want to be in the next 6 months, 2 years, whatever it may be. 10 years from now, I will be 33 on the cusp of 34, which in the grand scheme of life is still very young.
Yeah.
I see myself in a job of legal public service, living in a small community, suburb to a city, because as much as I love the small town feel, I am a city boy. Like, I love it. I love the hustle and bustle and people and just life. And by the age of 33, I want a simple life. I want to show up. I want to be a good guy for good people. I want to come home to like a wife and 2 kids, and take an hour at the end of the night, go to the gym, get a sick pump, come home and do it again. Like, it.
Fair.
I want to be simple but prolific in my simplicity in 10 years. I want to be making a difference every day in somebody's life, but coming home and being able to ground myself around a family that I'm proud of and kind of play the role that my father played for me at that age.
Yeah.
Get up, go to work, be a good person, take your kids, to the sports or the school play or whatever it is, Although 33, I'm hopefully they're not in school plays. I'm not trying to have a kid just yet.
They're like babies.
Yeah. It's like take your kid to preschool kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I want to be just kind of comfortable. Sure. I don't need excess. But I also want to be in 10 years striving for something bigger than where I'm at.
Well, you got to always be, right?
Yeah.
Like there's never a peak.
Yeah.
Because the peak is just starting another valley.
Yeah.
So like you don't want to reach the peak, because that means you're gonna have to start going downhill.
Correct.
And that's not where you want to be.
Correct. One of my biggest goals in life is to be a business owner someday.
Yeah.
I want to own a food business, because I love food and I'm passionate about food. And so maybe in 10 years I want to have a little bit of a savings, be a good guy, be a good lawyer, be a good dad, and maybe looking at a place to open up an ice cream shop or something.
Cool. And
kind of transition into that phase of life, because I think that being an ice cream man is just as important as being a lawyer. But we don't got time for that.
Yeah, no. So I think that obviously we have our fun questions, and I think we should wait for the end for that.
Yeah.
But let's switch roles. I think that's a nice place to end.
I think it's a great place to end.
Yeah.
And a great place to start would be Long Island.
Long Island.
Long Island.
They call it Long Island.
Long Island.
Long Island.
Long Island. Where you hail from.
Yes, yeah. Although I was very young. When we left. I was only 5. But to me, I was born on Long Island, like you said. My parents are from Long Island. To me, the idea of Long Island is the idea of your family being with you. right? When my family did live on Long Island, my whole family lived on Long Island. I'm pretty sure, off the top of my head, the people that lived the furthest away lived on Coney Island. So it was still New York. So in my head, the idea of Long Island isn't the place, because I was 5. I didn't have a connection to the place. The idea of Long Island is, well, everybody is here. Everyone. Grandparents, aunts and uncles, all the cousins, my whole family. It's that, like, at this point in my life, I can't wait to be on Long Island again. And Long Island doesn't have to be in New York.
Mm-hmm.
It can be anywhere in the world. Just everyone's got to be there, and that's a tough thing to get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's one thing about the Melillos, it's that, like, you talk about family unity, and I remember you always saying that, like, a dream of the Melillo clan is to just kind of have this place where it's like acres of property, and AJ's with his family here, and Nick's over here, and Joe's over here, and mom and dad are over here, but you're all in the same place.
Right.
And that concept of centrality, I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, probably stems from the strong mother figure that you have in your life.
Yeah.
Who, I mean, mother to 3 boys, God bless, wants nothing more than to see her boys together doing well.
Yeah. So, growing up, much like you, very matriarchal household. Like, what mom says goes. And you're right, something that my mother and father, but very, very strongly from my mother, always said was, I want you and your brothers to have a good relationship. Like, that was the big thing. And obviously a great relationship with her and my dad, right? Our family is the base, and it all starts from my mom. Like, more than the glue that holds it together. I don't know, whatever's stronger than that, whatever is stronger than the rock, like, just the nuclear core all comes from my mother. It's what she has always wanted. She always said she's just wanted to be a mom. That's what she's wanted in her life, and she did a damn good job at it.
I would say so.
She really did, and you're absolutely right. It's just this idea of, if we are together, things are okay. It doesn't matter what's going on outside. It doesn't even matter what's going on inside those walls. It's going to be okay. Might not be okay today, might not be okay tomorrow. Yesterday might have sucked, but maybe in a week it'll be okay. Maybe in a month it'll be okay. Maybe in a year it'll be okay. But it will be, because we're there. And at the end of the day, like, that's all you needed.
It can't be good if everybody's not there, is the essence of what I'm getting, right? So a big part of that, I mean, your family is much larger than mine. So, we had a household of 4.
We only had a household of 5, but that one person is probably me, because I'm the youngest, right? And I'm a lot.
Yes. But your 5 is a lot different than our 4.
That's fair.
Our 4 is a house, mom, dad, son, daughter.
Right.
So mom had a little girl, dad had a little boy, and those roles play themselves. You, on the other hand, the Melillos over here, it's dad has 3 sons, and mom also has 3 sons, right? So I want to hear a little bit about the dynamic of that relationship, because I can speak from experience. The relationship between my sister and my mother is complicated. And they always say it's some, I've heard it many a time psychologically, that the strongest and most polarizing relationship in a household is a mother-daughter relationship. So how did the household look, having 3 boys and a father and then a mother who was this strong matriarchal figure? Because I like to imagine that, like, if Anita had a daughter, she would be like, she'd already be the president. You know what I mean? Like your mother's just like that lady. But it's a different connection when you're dealing with 3 boys as opposed to having that relationship with a girl.
Right.
Because your mother never experienced, the things that a young boy experiences. And I imagine by the time she got to you, she'd seen it twice before that. So
yeah, she did all right by that point, right? Yeah.
When it comes to 3, she's like, I got it.
Yeah.
We're good. I've been here before. But for the first 2, explain how that dynamic works in your family.
Well, I think one big thing about my family is my dad worked a lot. Like he had to, especially when we were little kids, because I was a little kid. Because mom was a stay-at-home mom, and so that meant dad worked 2 jobs, right? And when we got a little older, circumstances changed, and dad was certainly home more, and dad did the cooking, and mom did the cleaning, and that was like the marital agreement that they had, but they were always there, and that was a big thing. But especially when we were little, it was just mom, because dad was working. And so it's interesting, like you said, that she maybe didn't understand certain things about little boys, and I don't know, I never actually had that conversation with her. But my mom was put on this earth to be a mother. Like, it doesn't matter. And we were boys. We were rambunctious, and we fought, and I could tell you some stories about the injuries that my brothers have given me, the things that I did to retaliate to my brothers. And she always gave us that room. And I think that that's an important thing for a mom to do, especially a mom to boys, is sort of like let them get hurt, let them push each other around a little bit. And not that we weren't like that bad. We weren't bad kids ever, but sort of like young boys are going to fight with each other, and let that happen. And that fosters a relationship in the 3 of us that I wouldn't trade for the world either. And it's just sort of letting, a mom has to be there to nurture her children too, in a way, and love them, and let them know that there will always be love in your mom. And my mom's big thing is, it doesn't matter how old you'll get, like, you'll always be my baby. I'll always be your mommy, and there's nothing you can do about that, whether you like it or not, whether it's embarrassing or not. Like, know that when I am around, like, I'm your mom.
Well, I'll say this about your mother is, I think it's probably like my favorite thing about your mom is that it's like, AJ's my little baby boy. He's my baby. He doesn't have a choice. Like that's the dynamic. It's like it's like my mother. It's tough love.
Yeah. Although I would never say that my mom had tough love. Like, wouldn't use that sort of language. Like, it was very much like a very, very soft, warm love. But you did what mom wanted you to do.
I was going to say, let me rephrase that then. It's I have a lot of love for you. You have no choice in the matter.
Right.
Like that kind of dynamic.
Yes. And it was just always just be there, and no questions asked.
So I want to ask you this, because I think that kind of relationship from your mother lends itself to, as a young kid, right, trying to figure things out, whether it be you get a bad grade in school, or you got detention or whatever it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your mother probably never allowed you to feel like you disappointed her.
No, no, not even close. Like both my parents. I mean, my dad is a man, right? So he's and
Well,
and
I
we'll
think it's
get there.
important to talk about what he did also. Like that's a pretty
Well,
big part of the
yeah,
dynamic.
yeah, and we'll get more, right? He was a police officer. He was a construction worker. So like
Yeah.
he's a man's man. So my dad was the kind of guy where it's I get a B on a test or I strike out in baseball, and he says, "Well, you could have gotten an A," or like you should have gotten a hit or something like that. But it was never I didn't think my dad was proud of me. It was my dad was always you are so much better than you're letting yourself be. And it was always a joke, but it was real and I knew it. It was, well, why'd you get a B? You could have gotten an A, right? You didn't work hard enough. And that's not I don't think that you're good enough. That's I know you're good enough, be better. With mom, there was some of that, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, when you fall down, mom's always going to pick you up. Like you can fall down 1,000,000 times flat on your face at the same spot doing the same thing. And when dad's going to say, "Get yourself up this time," mom's going to pick you up.
And I think that is something important that I'm happy you articulated, because again, a point of privilege for the both of us, and if it wasn't abundantly clear already, is that we have these relationships with our parents. I know a lot of people who resent the way that they were parented,
Right.
who don't talk to their parents. And I think it's important to kind of really assess what that kind of parenting produces, because like you mentioned, whether it be baseball or a test or this or that or whatever, knowing that somebody is there to pick you up, when you learn that your whole life, lends itself to this kind of internal discipline of
And just the confidence too.
exactly where I was going. That no matter how many times I fall, somebody's going to be there. And even if they're not there, they'd want me to get up.
Right.
Or they'd be telling me to get up. So I got to get up.
Yeah. There's not an excuse to do anything other than your best. Right? And that's a big thing that I learned from my parents, where it's like, you're not always going to win. You're not always going to get 100. You're not always going to be the best at whatever it is that you're doing. Most of the time, actually, someone's going to be better than you. But that's no excuse to not do your best that you can. Like I was never great at math.
Same.
Right. But being lazy and saying, "Well, I'm just no good at this, so there's no point." That was never, ever, ever an option, right? It's like, okay, you're not good at this, but did you stay after? Did you get more help? Did you ask a question? So that's one thing. Another thing that you learn in that scenario, and with having two older brothers, is I am not afraid to ask a question. And you've been in a classroom with me, and you've been in just public with me. I will ask any question that comes to my head. Because I remember being a little boy and sitting at the table with my mom and dad and my brothers and asking questions, and that's how you learn things, right? And my brothers would be like, "Why are you asking so many questions?" And I'd be, "Well, how can I ever figure it out if I don't ask you?" Right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's such a fundamental confidence in, well, if you're trying your best and you don't succeed, like whatever, you tried, and that's what it comes down to, and eventually you will succeed if you just keep at it.
So you said something, and I think it's a perfect point to kind of transition. You said that, your brothers would say, "Why are you asking so many questions?" And you said, "Well, how am I going to learn if I don't ask you?"
Right.
I want to know what you learned from your brothers that you didn't ask them. What in their growing up, because you watched your brothers grow up. You're the baby of the family, so you saw, Joe go to high school, Nick get his license, the first girlfriend, the whatever it may be, and there's some things you couldn't always ask questions about. I'd imagine there's some things I could never ask my sister questions about. You just kind of have to watch and learn. So I want to know what your brothers taught you that you didn't ask them to teach you.
Well, Joe, I'll start with, he's the oldest. And Joe probably taught me the most important lessons that I've ever learned in life. And I don't think he knows this. I don't know if I've ever even actually verbalized this to anybody in my family. I'm sure I've said this to you. But so for those of you that don't know my family, Joe was is my oldest brother, and he was a stillborn at birth. Like, the doctors resuscitated him and literally brought him back to life right after my mother gave birth. And obviously I wasn't around because he's older than me, but that is such a mark of my family that it's like I was around, right? So what you learn from watching somebody like my brother grow up who struggled, right? He didn't have it easy. He had troubles in school, trouble learning. It took him a long time to get his license, and things that when he was a little boy and the doctors told my mom, like, he'll never be able to do X, Y, and Z, and he's done X, Y, and Z, right? He'll never be able to drive a car. He drives a car. He'll never be able to, maybe get be able to read. And my brother reads better than anybody else I've ever met. And that comes from my mother working with him, because she wouldn't accept it for an answer that her son wouldn't be able to do those things, that her son wouldn't be able to do whatever she wanted her son to do, right? So what I learned from Joseph is I have no excuse in this life to not do whatever it is that I want to do. Because if you could see what he's done, and it might seem, on its face like, he learned how to read. Reading's hard. Like, that is a hard thing to learn how to do.
Especially considering the circumstances.
Right. Yeah, he learned how to drive a car. Driving a car is not an easy thing to do. I don't have an excuse in the world to not achieve whatever I want to, because he did. And that's something that you never learn from asking a question or even having a conversation. That's something that you can only learn by just watching a miracle, because my older brother is a miracle. Like, you might not believe in miracles, but the reason I do is because I've seen one live and grow up, and then have a daughter who's a miracle child in and of herself.
Yeah.
And my family's been so blessed with with those types of things, that you just don't have any excuses when you see it firsthand. Nick, my other brother, the middle of us, from Nick does everything with this confidence that he's the best at it, right? Like, and quite frankly, he's very good at a lot of things. And so what I learned from him is just be confident in yourself. Like, what do you have to lose? Just do everything in your life with all of yourself, because you only get one chance at it, right? Like, why would you do anything except for with everything? And that's something that you learned through watching. And for a long time growing up, I was Nick's little brother, right? in high school, in middle school, I was Nick's little brother. And that never bothered me because I wanted to be Nick's
Yeah.
little brother. You know what I mean? Like, being Nick's little brother was a really cool thing. One day, though, Nick came back to the school, and suddenly he was AJ's older brother. And I think that that's because of everything that he taught me. I did everything with the confidence that he instilled in me, which was just by doing it. You learn so much by looking. Being the youngest, you have the pleasure of watching people.
I was going to say, I think the distinct experience difference that you and I have in our upbringing is I didn't have that person to kind of look at and be like, this is how you do it? Okay,
Right.
cool. Like, I didn't have, I'm going to call it a cheat sheet almost. I think that you're better off because not only did you have one cheat sheet, you had two. And they're both incredible in their own ways. And you are very much the product of your brothers. Like, when you say the word confidence, I think a lot of people, if you were like, tell me about AJ, they'd be like, well, he's convinced that, he's the best to ever do it. Like, that's in a great way. You're not a showboater, you're a doer.
Right.
You're like, I'm the best, I'm going to show you I'm the best, and then if you doubted me and I did it anyway, I'm going to let you know. I'm going to remind you that I said it and I still am.
Right.
And that's very much Nick. I think it's remarkable. And you touched on another thing that I think is very important in your life, which is school. And I want to specifically talk about extracurriculars that you were involved in. And the importance and the lessons that you learned from your involvement. I'm going to say probably like in marching band and then theater, if I'm ranking those correctly, or whichever way you want to tackle them.
Well, yeah, no, certainly both of them had such a wild impact on my life. And you look back at it and you think it's almost like you didn't even realize what you were gaining from those experiences. And until you look back on them. And I've always had the luxury of kind of having this forethought very quickly. Or not forethought, this afterthought of like, what did I just learn? Very, very quickly. So the thing that I learned from marching band is how, well, two big things. How to effectively lead people. And the second thing is where confidence becomes too much. Right? Where you lean into cockiness, right? So I would say that for me, the first thing with being a leader of people is it's really comes down to trying to figure out how different people are motivated by different things, trying to figure out what those motivations are, but always making sure that that person knows that you could do what you're asking them to do. You're not asking them to do anything you wouldn't do or couldn't do. And two, that you are asking them to do it because you want them to succeed, right? So something that I learned is mentoring people, making them grow and become the best versions of themselves is one of the most fulfilling things you could possibly do.
100%.
And I did that a lot. And then the second thing is confidence bordering on cockiness. One of the biggest things when I was young, I wanted to be the drum major of the marching band. Like, that was my goal of high school, and I wasn't. I was not the drum major of the marching band. I was like an assistant drum major basically. And that I after I found out, I went to the band director and I was like, I was like, why didn't you pick me? Now, my best friend got the position, and I was very proud of her. And it was never like I'm better than her. Like, why would you pick her instead of me? Because I didn't think that. I thought she was wonderful and did a great job. But I was like, well, what did I do wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, you're just not ready. Like, you did everything. You did everything you were supposed to do, but you didn't do it for the right reason. You did it because you wanted that. You didn't do it because you loved to do it in a way. And so the confidence bordering on cocky thing is because I knew that I was doing it well and right. But I wasn't doing it because of how much I loved to do it. I did it because I wanted to be the best at it. And that's not why you should do anything. You should do it because you love to do it. And if you do it because you love to do it, you will be the best at it. And trust me, you don't have to tell anybody. They'll tell you. And so that's what I learned from marching band and theater. But theater, I just learned to lay it all out there. Sort of don't care what anybody says or thinks. If you're enjoying something, do it. And you might not be at the best. Like, I'm not the best singer in the world, right? I'm not the best dancer in the world. I'm not the best actor in the world. But I was able to let the world sink away while I was doing those things. And that's why I did them. And if you can find something like that, just do it, and it doesn't really matter. So that's what I mean.
I'll also add that your ability to step into a room, whether it be a room of 3 people, 300 people, or I'd imagine 3,000 people, you work it the same way. You understand the audience, and you understand how to engage the audience in an effective way. And I'd imagine that is something that you probably learn or develop in a place like theater and a marching band. And it's something that I attribute as one of your great qualities, is your ability to be in front of people in an effective way, regardless of what kind of people they are, how many of them there are, and what it is you're doing in front of them.
Yeah.
Your crowd work is impeccable.
Yeah, I think one thing that I also learned just through time and interacting with people is, well, you got to remember that it doesn't matter how many people you're talking to. You are talking to individuals. And one thing that I always try to do, no matter where I am or what I'm doing, is try and get an individual connection with each person I'm with. So I could be at a party, I could be in front of a group of people, or whatever the case may be. I want to take the time to at least shake the hand, say hello to everybody in the room.
Sort of like Jimmy Carter when he gets on an airplane.
Sure, sort of like
Shakes
Jimmy
everybody's
Carter.
hands.
Or the story that we once heard about Ronald Reagan, how a professor of ours had met him, shook his hand, and said, "You felt like you were the only person in the room when you were shaking his hand."
Yes.
That's the kind of impression that I want to have on people.
Yes. I think you do. I don't think you do. I know you do. So the next logical progression, since we're talking about school, we obviously went to Montclair State together. Spoiler alert, did the same exact thing.
Right.
4 years, hooked us in for another one, got the master's. But you are hard set, committed, starting very, very soon on another academic adventure. Care to speak about that for a minute?
Yeah, so Villanova Law is the next step. And
like I said that like it was nothing.
Well, again, it's not something. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I almost feel like I got into a good law school. Big whoop. Like, what am I gonna do next? I feel like this is great. I'm proud of myself, and I'm excited for the future. But well, that's just the next step. It just has what I have to do, and I'm gonna do it like I did everything else, you know. And I think that I think that going to a school that has a name is very weird for me because, well, I'm a product of public school, right? I'm a product of a public elementary through grad school education. And I wouldn't trade that for the world, right? And so it's interesting to go to a place with a name and people say something and you're looked differently at. And I don't really like that. If I'm being honest, it's like I'm there are plenty of people that I was around that are smarter than I am, that are just as capable as I am. And um, there's no reason that now that I have this name attached to it that I'm any different than I was before. So I'm excited for it. And I can't wait to do what I did everywhere else, which is make good connections with good people and learn a lot. Like
So
that's the goal.
so that's 3 years of law school, and then you get your law degree.
Sure.
What's the dream?
What's the dream? When I was 13, I would have said President of the United States.
I think you would have said that when
Eventually.
you were like 19.
Wait,
too,
when
but
I was like 19, I would have said President of the United States. Now that I'm 23, I'll say possibly President of the United States
good
eventually.
answer.
Um, but then again, you're crazy if you want that job, but I'm a little crazy. So, like, you know what?
A little?
So, you know, like, whatever. What are you going to do? But that's the far off goal. The real goal is, like you said, man, I just want to have a family. I want to have a wife. I want to have kids. And I want to do what my parents did for me and bring people into the world and instill confidence and instill passion and motive into people that and make them have lead great lives. And I want to do that with my own family, and I think that I want to do that with everybody, though. Like, that's what I want to be doing with my life. That is the dream. However that presents itself, whether that's as President of the United States or whether that is just as a guy who works a 9 to 5 and comes home for his kids. I want the people that I interact with to be able to be the best of themselves and try and bring that out in people. I think the one thing about me is that I genuinely don't care who you are. I want what's best for you. Like, I want you to live all of the things that you want in this world. Even we could be diametrically opposed on almost everything in life. And I want you to be happy and have a good life. And I want to help you get there. And so I think that that is a big thing that I also got from my mother, is just making everybody else around you happy and good is a good way to live your life.
So I think that this is a perfect opportunity to temporarily kind of break our fourth wall here and say that moving forward, I think the benefit of engaging in an interview like this is sort of a trademark for AJ and I is passionate disagreement over some topics. And now that you know our stories and about us, we arrive at the same conclusion. We want the same thing. We want to do the same things for people. And I think that's the greatest message that you and I have together. And I truly think that there's a reason that you and I have this relationship and have this outlet and outlets prior, and I'm certain outlets in the future that can kind of say to people, listen, as much as we are different, we are all the same.
Yeah, I think everybody really at the end of the day wants the same thing. They want to go home, be comfortable, be happy, and their family to be good. And life, although life is going to be hard, right? To just feel like you're on the right path and things are going as good as they can.
I think that's our superpower.
I
We're a real life example.
well, I think that we are a real life example of understanding that people can have different ways of getting to the same goal, and as long as your goal is the same, which is just good things happening, not that that's easy. It doesn't matter where the disagreements lie, because you can come together at the end.
Incredible.
So 3 questions to wrap it up.
I want to give you. I've had a question that's been sitting in my brain because you fired off. You did like a rapid fire.
Sure.
And I feel like you're gonna give me a great answer for this.
Okay.
But I want like a shotgun answer.
Sure.
What has being a fan of the New York Jets taught you?
What is being a fan of the New York Jets taught you? Never get your hopes up. But you know what? I'm also a fan of the New York Yankees. So it's like, on one end, it's like one team is always good and one team is always bad. And I think that's a perfect recipe because, like I said, never get your hopes up. But also, like, enjoy when things are good.
Mm-hmm.
And because things can be bad for a long time. So that's what it comes down to.
I love that. I've been waiting the entire time to ask you that question.
Yeah, never get too high, and never get too low.
Coast in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle.
I like that. So 3 questions.
3 questions. Now the first question is the easy one.
Yeah.
I know your answer. You know my answer.
Yep.
So, I think this might be the first time we ever actually answered Bruce Springsteen or Bon Jovi. You're the Bruce guy.
Bruce all day.
I'm the Bon Jovi guy. Just so now you all know where we stand on this.
Yes.
Right?
As if my little fist pumps when people say Bruce Springsteen weren't indication enough.
Right, and my clapping when people said Bon Jovi wasn't enough. But okay.
Yes.
The next question that we usually will ask is, if you were on a road trip, New Jersey to California, who are you taking with you?
Am I answering this one first?
I don't know. I mean, you can if you want to.
Steve Jobs.
Steve Jobs.
Every single day of the week.
For me, I don't know. I think that it would probably either be my brothers, because we could have a ball the whole time, talk the whole time. Or honestly, you. Like I could take that trip any day with you. You know, that's an easy one. But yeah, one of those two. I don't think I'd want to do it with anybody famous because I feel like they wouldn't live up to the hype, and it would be kind of boring.
You'd be disappointed.
Right. At least
down.
if I went with Nick and Joe or you, I know I'd have a good time.
You know what you're getting into.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm more of a. I want to pick the brain.
No, I gotcha. I want to pick the brain too. I'd rather have an interview with somebody like that.
That's
do
fair.
Something like this. But like a long trip like that, I kind of want to know what I'm getting into.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's a big commitment.
Yeah, right. It's like 3 days or something. I don't know. Well, if you
3
stop.
days by car.
Yeah. And the last question.
Yes.
You're stranded on an island. You have one book, one TV show, and one movie. So, I'll do this one first.
Yeah.
So, I think that the television show I would bring with me is probably The Office. I could watch that forever and ever on repeat. The movie I'd bring with me, now this is a toss-up. It's between. One is my, like, feel-good, guilty pleasure movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is just a great movie that I could watch over and over again. So my feel-good, guilty pleasure movie would be 50 First Dates. I could watch that on repeat. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I just love the movie so much. Or Forrest Gump. Also love that movie. But it'd be one of those two. And then for a book, that's a tough one for me because I don't reread my books.
Yeah.
Like I'm not big on that. But I'd probably have to go with like a compendium, like a Lord of the Rings has 3 books in one type of thing.
Gotcha.
Or the Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy has like 4 or 5 books.
Mm-hmm.
So something like that, one of those two. I mean, I guess I could say the Bible. That's got like 7 books in it.
Yeah.
But But I don't know. So a book with a lot of books.
A book with a lot of books.
No.
Good answer. So, TV show for me. I'm taking The Sopranos.
Classic.
And there's like a billion ways to watch that show.
Right.
It never gets old. As Jersey, like it's as Jersey as it
baby.
gets.
Yeah,
you
that's
know.
right.
Movie. I'm taking. See, this is a hard question because I'm a movie guy.
Right.
I love movies. But I want a movie that I want to laugh. I like laughing at movies. And to me, like, my favorite movie is Coming to America.
Okay.
Eddie Murphy and Arsenio Hall in the 80s. Untouchable.
Now, how did you feel about Coming to America 2?
I feel so strongly that they shouldn't have made it, but I didn't even watch it.
Fair enough.
So,
fair enough. Okay.
Why, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. You
No,
know?
that's fair.
And then book I struggle with because I'm not much of a reader.
Right.
And so I'm gonna cop out on the answer, and I'm gonna give you, like, probably the book that everybody who just graduated high school would say, and To Kill a Mockingbird. I think
Okay.
it's a timeless story. It's relevant. That's a lie. I'm gonna rephrase that because I did just read a book that I was a big fan of, Martin Luther King Jr.'s autobiography.
Right.
Even though he didn't really write it, so it's not really an autobiography.
Well, right. Well, Ulysses S. Grant didn't really write his either, but they
Wait.
say it's the best presidential memoirs.
Hold on. I'm lying again.
I know which one you're going to say.
Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Oh, okay.
Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
I thought you were going to say George Bush's autobiography.
No, that
although
book
you
is
did
incredible.
Love that.
Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey is a remarkable story about everything we talked about life, family, finding your way, being relentless in your pursuit of success, and having fun along the way.
Right.
Catching the green lights. That's the whole analogy of the book. Is in life, there's green lights, there's red lights, and there's yellow lights. When the lights are green, keep going.
Right.
What an awesome message to keep and have with you when you're stranded on an island.
No, I would agree. And I think that's a good message to end on. Is when there's green lights, you just got to keep going through them. Because sometimes there's going to be red lights, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes the lights are going to be yellow. But when they're green, which there probably won't be many of them,
No.
always take them.
Always take them.
Always take them. So with that, that's a little bit about us. That is AJ and Steven. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you got to know us and now you understand
A little bit about us.
Yeah, and who we are, really. So with that, this was another episode of Bridging the Gap on the Jersey First TV network. I'm AJ Malillo.
I'm Steve Rambola.
And we hope you have a wonderful week.